to overtime. Dwayne Wade right at the body of Anderson Varejao. Welcome to your Kodak moment, Anderson Varejao.
Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer!
Cleared up space to make sure that doesn't happen this time. Ooh, my headphones are busted, but who cares? It's a good day. As always, we have a good week of sports. I feel like I say that every week, but to me, any week that has sports in it is a good week of sports. So, I feel like having sports taken away for a couple of months really changed my perception. But before we get into all that, follow the Insta at the 30T show. We just made a Twitter called at the 30T. Follow the YouTube, the 30T Radio Archive. And if you want to call in, it is 802-440-4668 for any sports-based questions. Doesn't that feel good to hear? I think it does. I think it feels pretty great to hear. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Ladies and gents. Let's start off with the NBA like we do every week. The draft next week, Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. God, am I excited and God, am I stressed. Great depth of players, but who's going to be the best one to come out of it? Nobody knows. We had tons of reports this week that kind of didn't line up. We had the Hornets desperately wanting to trade up to 1 for Wiseman because the Warriors are going to take them at 2. We had the Warriors secretly wanting Anthony Edwards at 2. We had the Timberwolves taking LaMelo Ball at 1 and literally trading him to whoever wants him. The names we heard were the Thunder, the Knicks, and the Pistons. We had so much going on. And before we get into anything else, let's start with a conversation of the first overall pick. It really depends on where it's going to get traded because I am someone who really thinks that the Timberwolves are going to trade it. I've heard nothing other than that. I've heard nothing other than they are desperately trying to trade the first overall pick. So I'm just going to go with that. And if they don't trade it, who's in the conversation? Is LaMelo Ball? It's Anthony Edwards. We might see a situation like we did with Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson, where the Warriors took Carter and insisted that or with Brandon Roy and whoever it was that the Timberwolves got, where the Timberwolves took Brandon Roy because they knew the Blazers desperately wanted him, and the Rockets desperately wanted him, and they, flipped a trade. So are we going to see something like that where the Wolves take Wiseman just to get actual value out of the Hornets or the Warriors? Maybe if Onyeka Okongwu didn't exist. Because we've heard that the Hornets are really high on him too. Maybe that's a smokescreen because they desperately want Wiseman, but let's talk about it. Between Okongwu and Wiseman, I think the agreement is Okongwu has a much higher floor, and that Wiseman has a much higher ceiling, mostly because of the athleticism department. Wiseman has shown some development of shooting, some development of ball handling. Okongwu has, post passing and very little else. Great defensive player. Wiseman still needs to learn how to play defense. But even then, my mic is somehow barely picking up. What is going on here? Ooh. Okay. Ooh, nice. Clean. Yeah. We've heard the Hornets are fine with Okongwu at 3, which I doubt. I think they desperately want Wiseman. He fits their play style as far as, running pick and rolls with Devontae Graham and, Terry Rozier. And what could the Timberwolves get out of them? Maybe a 2021 protected first. Kevin O'Connor said a 2022 unprotected first. Doubt that would happen. Maybe it's Miles Bridges, the swingman out of Michigan State. Who knows? And by swingman, I mean 3-4 wing. Maybe it's that. I'm a big fan of getting PJ Washington. I doubt that would happen. I am such a huge fan of PJ Washington. I think he fits every team. I think he's the next Al Horford. Look, make threes, play great defense, finish around the rim, pass out of the post. That's what Al Horford is. That's what PJ Washington has been. That's why I don't think there's a huge need for the Hornets at center. I think PJ Washington can be a 5. Of course, you have to play a little bit of small ball, but I just think they should go best player available, and I don't think they should move up to do it. However, they seemingly really want Wiseman. I mean, they would trade up for Wiseman because we've heard the Warriors want him at 2. So ultimately the conversation is down to 3 names for the first overall pick. It's Anthony Edwards, shooting guard out of Georgia, 6'5", 6'10" wingspan, 225 or 230, something like that. Incredibly big-bodied, super wide-shouldered, has all the measurables you could want. People question whether, he cares enough. His stats didn't really translate to winning at Georgia, although when he did score over 24 points, they had a winning record, and when he didn't, they were awful. Even then, I think there's some issues there with him. Are there enough shots to go around for Anthony Edwards? And if there are, is he going to take too much of an advantage of that? In the same way we've seen Zach LaVine learn to love how to shoot, and now it's questionable how much he helps an offense. I'm a Zach LaVine hater is what I've been called, but who cares? Who cares what people call me? We have LaMelo Ball, who has the one discernible, excellent top tier trait, being his passing ability, but has he figured out the rest of the offensive side of the ball? He's just not a good scorer. He's an awful shooter. Whether you want to look at percents or at his release, it's just not good. It's really disappointing for a 6'7" point guard that with a shot could be incredibly impressive. I have questions there, but that being said, 6'7" point guard. He's skinny as hell, but he has great length at the position. That's what everyone's heard. Great passer, great length at the position. Could be a good off-ball defender. Could be a good team defender. Really likes to jump passing lanes, which is a big boomer bust type of defensive play. Great outlet passer. It just all comes down to his passing, which is at a great level. But other than that, there's not very much he does very well. There's not very much he does very well. And then you have, we talked James Wiseman, big guy. He's tall as hell. He's 7'1", good wingspan, lefty, which, some of y'all will love that. Shows some element of being able to shoot, from mid-range, less so from 3. Super athletic. Something like a 43-inch vertical for a 7-footer is like prime Dwight Howard level. It is insane. It's absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity. What else do you want me to say about James Wiseman? There's not much I can say about James Wiseman. I'm not a big fan of his. I think he's Clint Capella with a little tiny bit of Mark Gasol's post game without any of the passing. I just don't have a really high opinion of him. Some people say he's Chris Bosh because they see a big lefty who can kind of do it all. I just don't see that. Like, my biggest issue is I don't see, I see where the upside is coming from, but I just see a Clint Capella type. I see a more athletic Clint Capella. He's not going to be able to shoot really well. And if he is, it's not really going to mean much. It's going to be like 2 mid-ranges a game, and he's going to clank one off the front rim. That's what I see. Anthony Edwards, I have, the question is he going to be J.R. Smith or Dion Waiters, or is he going to be Donovan Mitchell or Dwayne Wade? I compare him to a taller Donovan Mitchell. I don't think he's your number one player on a championship team in the same way Dwayne Wade was. I think he has potential to be very good. I have, issue with the Andrew Wiggins comparison. He shows that he cares sometimes. Andrew Wiggins never cared. And that's why Timberwolves fans got so goddamn sick of him, because he never cared. You would just see him drifting out along the 3-point line, and you'd go, well, he's not going to touch the ball for another 5 minutes, and when he does, it's going to be a stupid shot. And last year, Andrew Wiggins had a great start to the year, and even when Max was on, I was like, this isn't going to last. It's not going to last because it never lasts. It never lasts. That's how I see it. So, I mean, look, Anthony Edwards, I'm more confident in than Andrew Wiggins, but it's a lot of the same question marks. And Anthony Edwards was playing football, and that's the excuse. Look, he's been playing. He grew up playing football, not basketball, and he has all the tools. I mean, look, I have worries. That's the issue. There's no prospect in this year's draft where I can legitimately say, in 5 years, this guy will have made at least one All-Star team. There's no one in this draft where I can say that. I mean, look, someone will vote in LaMelo Ball the same way they tried to vote in Lonzo Ball, but I don't think it's gonna last. I don't think it's gonna be guaranteed. Look, it's stressful, man. It's stressful to be someone who does a lot of draft scouting and is just kind of stuck with who do you think will be good. So ultimately, I think I would. I think I have Anthony Edwards 1 at this point, just because I would rather take the frame and hope something good happens there than take LaMelo, who can pass but can't do anything else. And as far as Wiseman goes, for me it's, would you rather have Clint Capella? What's a good comparison for LaMelo? I don't know. Trae Young that can't shoot. So Trae Young without a 3-point shot, Clint Capella, or Dion Waiters. I mean, Clint Capella is the only starting caliber player there, because it's either a tall Ricky Rubio who doesn't play defense, which I've given tons of shit to Rubio in the past as a Timberwolves fan, but he's a good defender. He's a very good passer. All of that. Would you rather have Rubio, 6'7" Rubio without the defense, or Clint Capella, or big J.R. Smith? And I would probably go with big J.R. Smith if your team already has a big, which or doesn't need a big, which the first 2 picks are in that situation. But God, is it difficult for me.